What's up, guys, and welcome to the 2022 Sportsline Mock Draft. Today, we are going to be going over the entire first round of the 2022 NFL Draft. We're going to be having picks for every single team, plus having some blockbuster trades that you don't want to miss. With that being said, with the number one pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars are now on the clock. And with the number one pick in the 2022 Sportsline Mock Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars will select Aiden Hutchinson, the defensive end from Michigan. This is the pretty obvious number one here for Jacksonville. There was a debate earlier in the offseason whether it be Hutchinson or Thibodeau, but overall it's going to be Hutchinson, and he is the most NFL-ready edge rusher, I would say, out of definitely him and Thibodeau. And also, he's also PFF's highest graded edge defender in college football all of last year, which is something that, I mean, yes, there might be some hate with PFF, but hey, still being the highest graded PFF rusher is still good. He had 14 sacks, 51 quarterback hurries. He is the real deal, and he will definitely make an impact on the Jaguars' defensive line. With the number 2 pick in the 2022 Sportsline Mock Draft, the Detroit Lions will select Kayvon Thibodeau, the edge rusher from Oregon. Kayvon Thibodeau was the top-ranked player coming out of high school in this class. He was one of the highest-ceiling edge rushers really ever that we've ever seen. A 91.5 PFF pass rushing grade last year. His speed and power combination is the reason why this guy is someone who could make a lasting impact in the NFL and could be a first-ballot Hall of Famer, I believe. With the third overall pick in the 2022 Sportsline Mock Draft, the Houston Texans select Kyle Hamilton, safety out of Notre Dame. He is, in my opinion, the best player overall in this entire class, and one of the best players last year if he would decide to do last year as well. His speed in the secondary is the reason why he's always in the right spot at the right time, either to make an interception or to make an incredible pass breakup. Kyle Hamilton is the best player in this draft, and yes, I have him going to number 3, and this is because NFL GMs don't really like safeties, okay? They don't really respect them as more as an edge rusher who could make an impact, you could say, immediately. I still think Kyle Hamilton could make an impact, but I feel like the more explosive plays would come from Aiden Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeau. And so Hamilton, best player in the draft, he's going to go number 3 overall to the Houston Texans. With the 4th overall pick in the 2022 Sportsline Mock Draft, the New York Jets select Derek Stingley Jr., cornerback out of LSU. Derek Stingley Jr. is the best cornerback in this draft. He's my cornerback 1, and he had an incredible freshman year back in 2019. In 2020, he kind of settled, he cooled off a bit, didn't have as great of a year as he did in 2019. And then last year, his season was cut short by a foot injury, although the promise that he showed back in 2019 is kind of like the Jadeveon Clowney scenario, where Clowney made one big hit, and he was immediately boosted up all of these big boards and stuff. And I think Derek Stingley, yes, I'm comparing him to Jadeveon Clowney, but I still think he'll have a better career than Clowney did. And I haven't seen production in some time, but I still think he has extreme talent, and he could definitely be all-pro, all-star, Pro Bowl cornerback, or one of the next big cornerbacks like a J.C. Jackson or a A.J. Terrell in the NFL. With the 5th overall pick in the 2022 Sportsline Mock Draft, the New York Giants select Ikem Ekwonu, offensive tackle out of NC State. People compare Ekwonu to IHOP. It's a house of pancakes. When a coach tells you to not stop until you hear the whistle, they have a picture of Ekwonu. He's the definition of that. He finished with 67 pancakes last season, most of them coming with defenders pretty much giving up after they feel like the play's over, and Ekwonu just barrels them over like a bulldozer. I think New York, the Giants here, they're going to go with the best offensive tackle available, and in this case, it's going to be Ekwonu. I'm pretty confident that Ekwonu will still be on the board at this point. I think Ekwonu is going to be a great fit for the Giants, and him plus Andrew Thomas on the other side, that's going to be a great duo. With the 6th overall pick in the 2022 Sportsline Mock Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Kenny Pickett, quarterback out of Pittsburgh. Carolina supposedly gets his quarterback of the future here in Pickett. Personally, I don't think Pickett is worth a first-round pick or maybe even a second-round pick, usually. But in years like this where he's one of the best quarterbacks available, just at the top of the board, and some teams desperately need a quarterback. Pickett's going to go to number 6 here for Carolina. I just feel like this is a good fit, and I've seen a lot of analysts and a lot of people just put Kenny Pickett in Carolina. Yes, and they're going to be reaching a whole lot. Yes, I don't think it's going to work out, but I feel like Carolina here is going to go with Kenny Pickett. With the 7th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the New York Giants will be trading it to the Pittsburgh Steelers for the 20th pick, the 52nd pick, and the 84th pick. So Pittsburgh will receive the 7th pick in the first round. The Giants will receive the 20th pick, which belongs to Pittsburgh, a 52nd pick, which is in round 2, and the 84th pick, which is in round 3. So it's going to be each of the Steelers' first 3 picks in this draft to move up 13 spots in the first round to select their quarterback of the future, Malik Willis, out of Liberty. I think once Carolina picks Pickett, Mike Tomlin and company, they're going to look at who's coming up, and it's going to be Atlanta, and it's going to be Seattle, and they're going to freak out, and they're going to think that one of those 2 teams are going to be selecting Malik Willis, and I just think Mike Tomlin loves Malik Willis. This is exactly what he's been looking for in a quarterback. He's going to trade up here and choose him. They're going to start Mitchell Trubisky for a year or 2, but then bring in Malik Willis, and I think Mike Tomlin plus Malik Willis is going to be an incredible duo. I really believe that if Malik Willis goes anywhere else but Pittsburgh, his career is over pretty much. It's not going to end well. But if he lands with Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, then the Malik Willis that we've seen, the potential that he has, he's going to reach with the Steelers. While on any other team, he won't. For the Giants, I don't think they've really invested in anyone here at pick number 7. Yes, they could go with some guys like Sauce Gardner or another offensive tackle or something, but I just don't feel like they're 100% invested in anyone, and since Pittsburgh offers up this, I don't think they're going to deny it. With the 8th overall pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Ahmed Sauce Gardner, the cornerback out of Cincinnati. And just thinking about it now, the pairing of A.J. Terrell plus Sauce Gardner is going to be one of the best duos at the cornerback position heading into this upcoming season. I think Sauce Gardner has a really, really good shot at Defensive Rookie of the Year if he can grab a few interceptions, which he loves to do. So I think that he does have a really good chance of becoming Defensive Rookie of the Year, really anywhere he lands pretty much. And with the 9th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Evan Neal, offensive tackle out of Alabama. Evan Neal is a monster. He is 6'7", 351 pounds, and really can do both pass blocking and run blocking. He is basically one of the best all-around offensive tackles, the best all-around offensive tackle in this draft class. I think Seattle's going to pounce on him once they see him fall. Yes, Evan Neal would probably go maybe 6, 7, or 8. Once Seattle sees that Evan Neal is on the board, they're not even going to doubt. They're going to take him because I think he's going to be the start of their rebuild of their offensive line. Whoever's going to be behind them, Drew Lock or someone else, I think that Seattle here will go with Evan Neal. With the 10th overall pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the New York Jets will select Drake London, wide receiver out of USC. Drake London has fallen from my wide receiver 1 about 1-2 weeks ago to now my wide receiver 4 really on my board right now behind Chris Olave, Jamison Williams, and Treylon Burks. And yes, he has fallen to wide receiver 4, but I just think the Jets really love this man in Drake London. It could go with him or Garrett Wilson, but I think Drake London's size will be a huge factor on why that they go with him over Garrett Wilson, because if we look at Zach Wilson's weapons right now, they have a 5'9" Jamison Crowder, and yes, I guess 6'3" Corey Davis, but Corey Davis hasn't really played to the level that they wanted him to play. I think the size of a 6'4" Drake London will definitely help in the draft process. And now with the 11th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Washington Commanders select Garrett Wilson, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Personally, I am very low on Garrett Wilson, but after doing some research and seeing what some of the inside sources have been saying, I think Washington is in love with this man, which is kind of the most Washington thing that it is, because just like Drake London, NFL GMs are very high on these two people, because Just Washington here, like, I don't really know why. I just don't see it in Garrett Wilson, but apparently NFL GMs do. Washington here could either go with a wide receiver or maybe a boost in the secondary, but I think once seeing that Stingley and Sauce and Hamilton, once those three guys are all off the board, I think they're going to go with their best wide receiver, and in this case, it's going to be Garrett Wilson. Like I said, these last two picks with the Jets drafting Drake London and Washington drafting Garrett Wilson, these two picks could easily be flipped. I could definitely be seeing Garrett Wilson land in New York and Drake London being landed in Washington instead. With the 12th overall pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Trent McDuffie, cornerback out of Washington. McDuffie is one of my favorite cornerback prospects. Yes, he might not be the best, but he is my favorite because he just like Kyle Hamilton, he's always in the right place at the right time. He's always there to either break up a pass or just truck a defender or truck a receiver or something. He's always, it seems like, to be in the right place at the right time. Minnesota, they badly need a quarterback, as right now the only notable one on their roster is a 31-year-old Patrick Peterson. So I just really feel like they're going to go here with Trent McDuffie. This is almost a lock for me. Now here with the 13th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Houston Texans are back on the clock, and they're going to select Charles Cross, offensive tackle out of Mississippi State. Charles Cross, the first major player here to fall out of the top 10. Charles Cross, he's kind of almost a lock to go into the top 10, but here in my mock draft, I'm falling out to the Houston Texans at number 13. This is a solid draft for the Texans. They get Kyle Hamilton at first with their third overall pick, and now at the number 13, they get Charles Cross from Mississippi State. I think this is a no-brainer. He's the best player on the board right now. They need to rebuild their offensive line. The Houston Texans here are going to get Charles Cross. This is a really, really good pick for them. Now here, with the 14th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Baltimore Ravens will be trading this away to the Green Bay Packers. Baltimore is going to receive the 22nd pick, the 53rd pick, and the 132nd pick, while Green Bay will move up 8 spots to get the 14th pick. And with this 14th pick, they're going to select Treylon Burks, wide receiver out of Arkansas. Aaron Rodgers needs some weapons. I think that has been said, and that has been one of the main things for the Packers and the Packers front office to do. They need weapons, and Burks is a great weapon, when used right, of course, because Arkansas did not use him right. But looking at the board, I don't think the Ravens here are really committed to anyone, just like what the Giants were at pick number 7. I don't think the Ravens are fully committed on anyone, and if they want a wide receiver to help Lamar Jackson, they can trade back, get some extra picks, because they have 2 seconds now, 3 third-round picks, and 4 fourth-round picks. So they can definitely get one pretty solid wide receiver, maybe like a Sky Moore or something later on, with some of those picks. Or they could package them and trade up later, you never know. With the 15th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Philadelphia Eagles will select Devin Lloyd, the linebacker out of Utah. And I think it's obvious at this point also that the Eagles need a defensive help, and especially at that linebacker spot. Yes, they added Hassan Reddick over the offseason, and now alongside him, across from him, is Devin Lloyd. This is 2 solid linebackers. Devin Lloyd, I think, is the best linebacker in this draft. And so I think with a team that has a pretty reasonably young defensive line, they're going to be applying a lot of pressure. I believe they were the second to least in sacks last year, so they need to add some pressure, and they do here. Devin Lloyd, he can play back, he can rush, you never know. So this is a good pick for the Eagles. With the 16th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the New Orleans Saints select Chris Olave, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Olave, in my opinion, is the wide receiver one, the best wide receiver in this draft, and he's also the perfect fit for the Saints, who, if you're looking at their offense, when it's healthy, it's a scary offense. You have Jameis Winston, who I believe is being massively underrated right now. And then you have Alvin Kamara in the backfield. He can be a receiving back. He can run it down the middle. You never know. You can do anything with Alvin Kamara. Now you're going to add Olave. And plus the return, people are forgetting about this, the return of Michael Thomas, who in my opinion was a top 5 receiver before his season-ending injury. This offense is going to look scary next year, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints go pretty far and maybe even make the playoffs and go maybe to the second or third round. With the 17th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Khair Elam, the cornerback out of Florida. I am a little bit biased here, but I don't believe this is a reach for the Chargers. Khair Elam will boost this defense and is a really solid cornerback who's also getting pretty underrated vibes here. This Chargers defense was one of the worst in 2020 to now they've added Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson over the offseason. They have Derwin James and Joey Bosa, and now in the draft with their first round pick, they're selecting Khair Elam. I think this defense is going to go from one of the worst to a top 3 defense next year. With the 18th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Philadelphia Eagles are back on the clock, and they select Travon Walker, the defensive end out of Georgia. Travon Walker has been getting a lot of first overall hype lately, and I just don't really see this. Yes, he's a good player, don't get me wrong. He is a really good player, but he's not going to be worth the first overall pick. And I don't think he's even going to go in the top 10. I think a lot of this hype for Travon Walker recently is kind of fake. I mean, yes, he's a good player, and I believe he's gone up on some teams' draft boards, but I don't really see him going in the top 10, and here I have him getting selected at number 18. Once more, like I was saying, Philadelphia had the second least sacks last season, and the addition of Travon Walker off the edge is going to be a beautiful addition. So now you have Devin Lloyd and Travon Walker, 2 big additions for the Eagles on the defensive side. Plus, you still got Darius Slay in the secondary as well. This defense could be a really solid defense in the top half next year for Philadelphia. With the 19th overall pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the New Orleans Saints select Bernard Raymond, the offensive tackle from Central Michigan. In one of these 2 picks, with the 16th and with the 19th, the Saints are going to choose a tackle. I think that's also pretty obvious. It's going to be which one, and if they want Raymond, in this case, Raymond is the best, in my opinion, the best offensive tackle right now on the board. I don't really think he needs to go with the number 16 overall pick. Yes, the Chargers at 17 could get an offensive tackle or someone on the offensive line, but in this case, I think they passed it up. The Saints will get him. They need a replacement they lost one of the best offensive tackles, if not the best offensive tackle in the NFL, in Teron Armstead, to Miami over the offseason. And they need a replacement, and Bernard Raymond is going to be their replacement. It's going to be interesting to see how he does in the Saints offense next year. With the 20th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the New York Giants, who are on the clock because they got this pick from the Steelers in that trade, the New York Giants will select George Karlaftis, the defensive end out of Purdue. The Giants are going to be super, super lucky in this mock draft as Karlaftis fell all the way to 20. Yes, he's getting top 5. I mean, some people even have the Giants selecting Karlaftis at 7 to help with their edge rush, and him falling to 20 is huge for the Giants. They're getting extra picks. They traded down, getting extra picks, plus still adding a guy who they could have gotten at 7 is incredible from the Giants, and I think he is a top 10 overall player in this draft. And the Giants, they need a pass rusher. I can't name one pass rusher right now for the Giants. Karlaftis would be a good addition, and getting him at 20 has got to be the steal of the draft. Now, with the 21st pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the New England Patriots are on the clock, and they're going to select Jameson Williams, the wide receiver out of Alabama. The Patriots here, they grabbed the last, I would believe, first-round caliber wide receiver in this mock draft. And yes, it's a speedy Jameson Williams. He's my wide receiver 3 right now. And yes, I like this pick. It's really good. It's Jameson Williams, who's one of the best wide receivers in this class. But this is going to be kind of an iffy pick because of Mac Jones' arm strength. There's always that pick or 2 in the first round that is very questionable, and I think this is going to be one of them. The Patriots selecting Williams, who is mainly deep threat, but we didn't really see Mac Jones hit a lot of deep balls last year, so it's going to be interesting to see how that works, because if Williams can burn the entire secondary in a matter of seconds, but Mac Jones can't throw it 40, 45 yards downfield to him, there's really no point in having him. So I think it's going to be one of the most questionable picks in this upcoming draft. And now with the 22nd pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Baltimore Ravens, who are on the clock now because this used to belong to the Packers, but in the Packers-Ravens trade earlier, Baltimore got this pick, and they're going to select Devontae Wyatt, the defensive tackle out of Georgia. The Ravens go with Wyatt here over Jordan Davis, which is questionable, but I think it will work out in the end. Also, the Ravens, overall, they need a pass rush, as last year they were also bottom 10 in terms of sacks. I think Devontae Wyatt will help them. I think Devontae Wyatt is a good pick, and Devontae Wyatt here is a Raven. With the 23rd pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Tyler Linderbaum, the center/offensive guard out of Iowa. This is a much-needed position that needs to get filled for Arizona. I'm using him here as a guard because they do have Rodney Hudson at the center spot. If he can stay healthy, then they've got a really solid center. But if they can move Linderbaum to guard, which he did play some in college, I think he's still going to be great, and I think that it's going to be a big-time boost for the Arizona offensive line. Now with the 24th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle out of Georgia. This is the third Georgia defensive lineman here in the last 7 picks to be chosen, and it's another pass rusher, another run stopper, really. It never hurts, and the Cowboys, who need some help on the defensive line, get a big-time guy in Jordan Davis, as he is a very, very solid run stopper in the middle in the A-gaps and pretty much in the middle with the center. So I think Jordan Davis is going to be a really good pick here for the Cowboys, and that it's going to be a very, very scary defensive line to watch with Micah Parsons, D-Law, and now Jordan Davis. This is a pretty scary defensive line. With their 25th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Buffalo Bills will be trading this pick to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers will get this pick, the 25th pick in the 2022 NFL draft. The Bills will get a 2023 first-round pick, a 2023 third-round pick, and the 133rd pick this year. With this pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Zion Johnson, the offensive guard out of Boston College. And now trading up here to have 2 first-round picks in this draft is how they really go all in. Drafting Zion Johnson, they got Tristan Wirfs, one of the best offensive tackles in the league. Now adding on Zion Johnson, who's a very underrated offensive guard, I believe. And he is the best offensive guard, or the best guard in this draft class, and adding him is just going to help boost this offensive line who lost Alex Kappa over the offseason. So I think Zion Johnson here will be a great replacement for him. With the 26th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Tennessee Titans select Jermaine Johnson III, the defensive end out of Florida State. Jermaine Johnson is a powerful pass rusher who basically is one of the most talked about edge rushers besides, you could say, Hutchinson and Thibodeau. And Tennessee now has Bud Dupree on one side, Jermaine Johnson on the other side. This is going to be a very, very, very scary pass rush, as Jermaine Johnson, I believe, coming into the league is better than Bud Dupree. Not saying Bud Dupree is that bad, but Jermaine Johnson's potential in this league and with Tennessee, I just really see it fit. Plus, you have superstars at other places like Kevin Byard. I think this team's defense is really going to take a step up here with adding Jermaine Johnson. With the 27th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be trading this pick away to the Detroit Lions. The Lions will be getting the 27th overall pick. On the other hand, the Buccaneers will receive the Rams' 2023 first-round pick and the Lions' 34th pick in this year's draft. So, I talked about earlier how the Bucs they got 2 first-round picks. Well, not anymore, because Nakobe Dean, the linebacker out of Georgia, is a Detroit Lion. Yes, I said all this stuff about Tampa Bay, but Lions coming in, they see Nakobe Dean on the board at 27. They want him. Detroit, you've got a new defensive play caller, and the Lions here giving up not even their own first-round pick, which I think is going to be pretty high next year because I don't think this team is that great. But they're giving up the Rams, who could go back-to-back for Super Bowls. So I think that this is a great pick and a great trade-up, too, because for the Lions, you're getting the 27th pick, you're getting the Rams, which is probably going to be a late first-round pick as well. Plus, you're going to give up the 34th pick in this year's draft to draft Nakobe Dean, who I think is definitely worth it in this trade. I think the Lions here strike gold with Nakobe Dean right here. Now here, with the 28th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, we have a blockbuster trade, as the San Francisco 49ers will be trading up to get this pick. The Green Bay Packers will be getting none other than Deebo Samuel. The 49ers in return are going to receive this pick, the 28th pick, the 92nd pick in this draft, and a 2023 third-round pick in next year's draft to draft Andrew Booth Jr. with this pick. Now, let's start here with the Deebo Samuel trade. new home for Deebo Samuel is now going to Green Bay. And yes, Green Bay did get Treylon Burks earlier, who people have really compared to as a Deebo Samuel. But Deebo Samuel's really expressed his opinion on how he wants to be a traditional wide receiver now. He doesn't want to play the wide back spot that he really fell into in San Francisco. So Green Bay they get two new weapons for Aaron Rodgers. One of them being a traditional wide receiver now in Deebo Samuel. The second, they now have their own Deebo Samuel-esque player in Treylon Burks. So I think this is a really good trade for the Packers, plus giving up this first-round pick plus 2/3. I really think that's going to be it for Deebo Samuel. I don't think it's going to take him two first-round picks and some more. So looking at the pick itself here, Andrew Booth Jr., the cornerback out of Clemson. The Niners, they get rid of someone who doesn't really want to be in the building, and they're bringing in Andrew Booth Jr. to fill one of their much-needed spots and one of their weakest spots in their defense last season and really in the playoffs as well. We saw that pass rush dominate, but we saw that secondary struggle a lot for the 49ers. I think Andrew Booth Jr. is going to come in, and he's going to definitely level up this defensive secondary for the Niners, and I think that this Niners defense will definitely be one to look out for in this upcoming season. Now here with the 29th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Kansas City Chiefs are on the clock, and they're going to select Jalen Petrie, the cornerback out of Baylor. And I'll be honest here, I don't know that much about Jalen Petrie. I just know that Kansas City, they need a cornerback, and they have back-to-back picks here, and I think they go with the cornerback or the best cornerback available, which in this case is going to be Jalen Petrie. I think Kansas City here lands a cornerback, and it's going to be a pretty solid cornerback as well. Now here with the 30th pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Kansas City Chiefs are back on the clock again, and they're going to select Arnold Ebiketie, the defensive end out of Penn State. Back-to-back picks here, and they get two solid pieces on the defensive line. One defensive end who can boost their pass rush, which wasn't really effective that much last season. And now they also get a cornerback to boost their secondary. I think that offense side, yes, you could go with a wide receiver here, maybe Sky Moore or George Pickens, but I just think they go with a cornerback and a defensive end to boost that defense because, yes, you lose Tyreek Hill if you're Patrick Mahomes, but you still got Travis Kelce, and you brought in Juju Smith-Schuster, and you still got CEH back in the backfield. So I think they're going to be fine for now, but their defense has really was killed them last season, and so I think they're going to boost that. With the 31st pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Kenyon Green, the offensive guard out of Texas A&M. We've seen the Bengals offensive line struggle, and it really showed in the playoffs with a 9-sack game on Joe Burrow. So I think they really need to redo their offensive line, which they've done a pretty solid job of in the offseason, rebuilding that right side of the offensive line. Bringing in Kenyon Green, you're going to start building here that left side. As you have La'el Collins, Ted Karras, Alex Kappa on that right side. Kenyon Green, you can move the left guard here and then find the left tackle to block Joe Burrow's blind side. I think this is a solid pick for the Bengals and a pretty obvious one. Now here with the 32nd pick in the 2022 Sportsline mock draft, the Detroit Lions are back on the clock with their third first-round pick of the night, and they're going to select Sam Howell, the quarterback out of North Carolina. Detroit will grab the quarterback of the future with this pick. Whether it be Howell or Ritter, I think it's going to be Howell. Jared Goff here is still going to start 1 or 2 more years before Howell is really in and ready for the NFL, I believe. But I think Howell is going to be that guy. I mean, that blue in UNC and the blue in Detroit, I feel like that just kind of matches a little bit. So I think I have him choosing Howell here, and I think that Howell is going to be or try to be that quarterback of the future for the Detroit Lions. Now that is it for this first round mock draft. The 2022 Sportsline mock draft is officially over. I'm going to go over here some sleepers that fell out of the first round and some guys that I think snuck in. Here's some players that fell out of the first round that could definitely come in, but I feel like they're going to fall out. Lucine or Klein, the safety out of Georgia, he fell out of the first round. You have Trevor Penning, the offensive tackle of Northern Iowa. He fell out of the first round. And I think those two guys could definitely be in as a late-round first-round pick, but I just don't have them in this draft. Now coming into the first round and really have boosted their draft stock in the last few weeks and a few months through the combine or something, George Pickens, the wide receiver out of Georgia, he could come in. He is a big-time sleeper. He was some people's I saw wide receiver 1 in this class. That's how deep this wide receiver class is, where the top 7 wide receivers, top 8, could all be considered as the best wide receiver in this class. Pickens could definitely go to Kansas City at 29 or 30. I could definitely see that happening, so I wouldn't be surprised if he lands there. Also coming in, Leo Chanel, the linebacker out of Wisconsin, could come in, and Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker, running backs. Breece Hall out of Iowa State, Kenneth Walker, the running back out of Michigan State. The Buffalo Bills, if they don't trade away their pick, they could go with the running back, as they have said that they're not going to be opposed to drafting a running back, which is not their most needed position, but could definitely be a boost with some pretty solid running backs in this class. Now, I would say probably one of the most borderline prospects here to go in the first round is Roger McCreary, the cornerback out of Auburn. I think he's a pretty solid cornerback. He's on that border of going either in the first, second, or the top 5 pick in the second round, or a bottom 5 pick in the first round. He is right on that borderline. I could really see him going either way, in somewhere between the 22nd and 32nd, or somewhere between the 1st and 10 in the second round. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Keeping Up with the Commanders. This one was it. We've got the draft on Thursday night. I'm going to have a video coming out on our first round pick, and then one coming out reviewing pretty much the entire draft class that we have selected. I can't wait. Thursday night is the first night of the NFL draft. It's going to be incredible. I can't wait for it. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Webcast. This was my 2022 Sportsline mock draft. See you guys in the next one. Peace.